My name is Tom. I've worked at McDonald's for a pretty long time. It was the only normal option that I had in our tiny little town. Well, at least it was normal until that one night shift. That night, I was set to the McDrive stance. My manager likes to stick me there, though I find it pretty comforting. The job is basically to sit on a chair next to the intercom, get the order from the customers outside, make it, and serve it to the customers through the reception window. It's much better than working at the counter with all of these extra ketchup and mayonnaise requests, and much better than cleaning the whole store. So I don't have complaints. The time was 11 p.m. Soon my shift would be over. I was leaning on the windowsill playing on my phone. Our branch is at a pretty isolated place outside of town, so we don't have that many people coming by, especially during these hours. Suddenly, the intercom bell rang, which means that someone is outside with his car and wants to order. Open my microphone and say, "McDonald's, Tom speaking. What would you like to order?" From the other side, I could hear the voice of a tired middle-aged man. "Hey, yes, give me 1 large fries and 1 large Coke." "No problem, sir. It's $12. "And your name is?" "Bob," he says. "Okay, Bob. Please move forward with your car to the reception window and wait. That one is a piece of cake." I'm rushing to the kitchen, grabbing fries that were ready in advance and pouring into a large cup of Coca-Cola juice from the machine. As I step towards the window, I see a police car, and in the driver's seat, there is this fat cop who is waiting for his healthy midnight meal. He looks exhausted. Tough night. Ask him to break the ice. He sighs. "Yee, just getting back from a harsh scene. Terrible car accident." "Oh God, are there any fatalities?" As response, he takes his fat finger and slides it around his neck. I got the meaning. He pays me. I hand him his fatty bag, and he drives away. You know, one of the interesting things about working at McDrive is that I get to hear a bunch of different stories from a variety of people. One time it's a cop, another time it's a lawyer, and once in a while it's a drunk homeless guy who thinks that the window is the main cash register and yells at us when we try to explain to him that this cashier is for cars only. The branch has returned to be empty and quiet. I was playing on my phone, waiting for the shift to be over. After a few minutes, the intercom rang again. "McDonald's, Tom speaking. What would you like to order?" But there is no response from the other side of the line, just a wired white noise. It's odd. Hello? How can I help you?" But the white noise is still there, no response. It's so weird, I tell myself. Maybe the microphone has stopped working, but a moment before I get out from the store to check it up, I hear a low voice on the intercom. "Hello," a man's voice says from the other side of line. "Hey, good evening." I respond, "My family and I would like to order, please." "Okay, what would you like?" After a few moments of silence, the man says, "Me and my wife will have a double Big Mac meal with fries and Coke, and 2 Happy Meals for the little 2 on back." I'm writing down the order and say, "Okay, it's $40. What's the name?" "Just write the Goldberg family," he says. "Okay, please move forward with your car to the reception window and wait for the order to be ready." Back to the kitchen. I turn on the oil heater and pour to it some frozen fries and fry frozen processed meat. When everything is ready, I put it all in a large carton bag and step towards the window. When I got there, I leaned my head out of the window and saw an old car moving towards me slowly. The model is a white Honda Civic with a lot of tin blows on it. It looks like they didn't even bother to take it to the garage or something. But who am I to judge other people? I work at the most doubtful place that exists after a whore. The car stops near the window, and the father opens the car's window. "Hey, Goldberg's here," he smiles. "Hey, I'm Tom." He keeps staring at me with his smile without saying a word. I can hear the crickets from the embarrassing silence. Okay. It's $40, please," I say to break the silence. "Oh, right," he says and opens his wallet, searching for money. As he continues to search for his money, one of the two kids suddenly yells, "Dad, I'm hungry." And then his younger sister yells too, "Yes, Daddy, bring the food." Their mother quickly turns her head to them and says, "Here, in a moment you'll have your food." The dad looks at me with a shameful look and apologizes. "Sorry for this. We are starving to death. We had one hell of a ride. All good." I smile to him while he continues to look for his lost money in his wallet. I leave their order on the inside floor under the window until they'll pay. Suddenly, I'm starting to smell this awful smell of something burned, like something is burning really strong. Turn to the family. "I'm sorry, I got to check something." Before they reply, I'm already running to the kitchen, ready to see the damage I did. God, I probably forgot to turn off the oil heater, but as I got there, the smell was no longer there. Nothing has been burned down, and the kitchen looks normal as always. This is so wired. After a moment, I remembered that I have to get back to the reception window to complete the payment and deliver the family their order. But as I returned to the window, the Goldbergs were no longer there. Their bag is still on the floor, and they didn't leave the cash for it. I took my head outside from the window, and there was no sign of them or their old rusty car. Few moments after my shift was over, as I was driving home, I thought to myself, why the hell they leave without taking their meals if they were starving? And also, from where did this weird smell coming from? So wired. In the morning after I arrived at a morning shift, again in the McDrive stance, as I step inside the branch's main entrance, I see all the staff and my manager gathering around the small TV screen. It was a news broadcast. It's rare that something happens in our little sleepy town, so it must be something serious that occurred. The broadcast begins. The anchor's face is serious, and with a dramatic pose, she says, "A tragic car accident has taken the life of a whole family." Oh God, I'm thinking to myself, it must be the accident that the policeman talked about. But then, the video footage of the event is being played on the screen. In the video, there are a lot of emergency forces surrounding a vehicle that is on fire. And the vehicle is white, Honda Civic, with a lot of tin blows on it, just like the Goldbergs one. As I'm trying to figure out what the hell is going on, the anchor continues. The Goldberg family were on their way from a long road trip, and all they wanted was to stop by at the close McDonald's branch just around the corner. But a few moments before, their car suddenly deteriorated to the side of the road, and the result was fatal. The vehicle crashed into an electric pole that was at the corner. Because of their high speed, the pole collapsed on the car and blew up, and the car caught fire, leaving the father, mother, and their 2 children to burn to death. The report ended. I stare at the TV screen, still can't believe what I just heard, mumbling to myself, what the hell? They died. Cannot be true. Saw them alive yesterday. They did make it to the branch. King took an order from them, and suddenly, before I can finish my mind, the intercom bell rings. It takes me a few seconds to realize, and it rings again. Tom, my manager, accelerated at me. What are you waiting for? There are customers outside. Answer them. With my hand shaking and my heart beating fast as hell, I open up the microphone and say, McDonald's. Tom speaking. What would you like to order? But then, I hear this voice again. It's the dad. We didn't take our meals last night. Can you bring us food? We are so hungry. Working in fast food chains isn't really anyone's dream job. Working the night shift as a girl where sketchy individuals often show up doesn't make the task better. The slow and weary movement of time had me praying that no customer would enter for the last remaining 5 minutes before closing. observed as Keith polished the tables, and allowed myself to be lulled to relaxation as Jason's sweet voice reverberated from the kitchen while Martha, our manager, had hid herself away in her office to finish the day's remaining duties. The sound of approaching footsteps snapped me away from reading the kiddie meal activity sheet, only for my eyes to meet an angelic face of a man. Smile so warm made me smile as well, that it took a while before I could utter a welcome and ask for his order. His ocean eyes scanned the top menu while biting his lower lip, and the sight alone made me consider loving the night shift. His attention returned to me, still sporting that smile, but what he said next made my stomach drop. "I'd like the jumbo burger, please, but instead of the usual beef, I'd like your meat instead." He said those words in such a friendly manner as if it was the most normal thing in the world, while I couldn't even breathe. I waited for a "haha, just kidding," but it never came. "Hello?" he asked as he waved a hand right in front of me, trying to snap me out of shock. "Ah, sorry, you close in 5 minutes, right? That's not enough time to cook your meat. I personally love the buttocks, meatiest part for me." He chuckled as he sent a wink my way. My tongue felt non-existent as fear took over my system. The ringing in my ears managed to muffle his voice and the horror that left his mouth. "Oh, so I guess I'll just have the large fries and large Coke, please. Thank you so much." His last request was said with such a polite tone that I felt like my mind was ready to lose it. I watched as he took the table near the door right next to where Keith was cleaning. I felt cursed, like I was hexed to stand in that spot forever with only the nightmare to keep me company. Keith's running form was enough to shake me out of my trance, and allowed me to finally say the word "what?" as he pulled me into the kitchen. Jason gave us a questioning look, but before he could even inquire, Keith spat out words that made the horror even worse. "That man out there showed me a cut on top of his finger that had sliced through the skin, and before I could even offer a band-aid, he deliberately pulled that skin back with his teeth, pulled it off and chewed it as he kept smiling at me. What the heck is this shit?" I felt every tension in Keith's body as he paced back and forth, trying not to have. Jason turned ghostly white at that, and we saw how he struggled to process the situation when I recounted what that man said to me. 911 call was made by Martha when everything was explained to her. Jason sat in front of the locked door of the office holding a knife just in case the man decided to come after us, while Keith held my hand the whole time as the tremors started to wreck my body. The police arrived after a short time, but upon inspection, the man was no longer in the premises. Statements were taken, and even the authorities couldn't hide the disgust that got etched in their faces as our story got unfolded. Sleep never came to me that night, and I quit the very next day. Walking the streets had become something so difficult now as I had developed a fear of strangers smiling. Whatever happened that night clearly ruined me. He was never found, and I pray every day that he wouldn't find me. To those working the night shift, please always be careful. Deception is a mask that fits everyone. It was an icy December evening when I started my usual night shift at the abandoned nursing home in the small town of Clintonville. The clock read 11:00 p.m., and the moon hung low in the sky. It was my job to patrol the empty hallways and make sure everything was going well. But this night was going to be anything but ordinary. I carried my flashlight with me as the lighting in this old building was often unreliable. The creaking of the floorboards and the whispering of the wind through the windows created an eerie atmosphere. I was alone in this facility, except for the shadowy memories of times past. As I walked down the hallway, I heard a soft, rhythmic knocking. My heart began to beat faster as I neared the source of the sound. It came from one of the rooms that served as a lounge for the residents. The door was ajar, and the knocking grew louder. Carefully pushed the door open and illuminated the room with my flashlight. An old rocking chair moved back and forth by itself as if someone was sitting in it. But there was no one to be seen. The room was empty except for an old radio sitting on the table. The radio was on and a distorted, monotonous tune was playing from the speakers. It was as if a ghost was moving the rocking chair and playing the music. A shiver ran down my spine. I had always believed in rational explanations, but this experience shook my beliefs. Turned off the radio and left the room, still confused by what I had seen. But that was just the beginning. As I continued to patrol the hallway, I heard faint footsteps behind me. I turned around, but there was no one there. The footsteps grew louder and closer. I began to run, swinging the flashlight around wildly, hoping to catch a glimpse of my pursuer, but it was like someone was always one step ahead of me. The darkness seemed to come to life. Finally, I reached the lobby of the nursing home and tripped over my own feet. Falling to the ground, the footsteps stopped, and the silence returned. I found myself on the floor, feeling like I was being watched. With shaking hands, I sat up and tried to organize my thoughts. But then I realized the painful truth. My eyes fell on the license plate of the company vehicle that was parked in the driveway of the nursing home. It was the same license plate I had seen at the start of my shift. I had been sure I was alone in the nursing home tonight, but now I realized I wasn't. The one haunting me wasn't a ghost or a supernatural entity. It was a real human. At that moment I heard faint laughter from somewhere. The darkness played with my senses, and I couldn't pinpoint the threat. Rushed to the exit, opened the door, and ran outside. There, in the glow of the streetlights, I saw him. A man stood at the edge of the sidewalk and grinned evilly at me. It was the driver of the company vehicle who had been following me the whole time. With one last laugh, he disappeared into the darkness, and all I could do was collapse, exhausted, onto the sidewalk. My horror that a living human being had stalked me in this way far exceeded any supernatural fears I had ever had. The police were called, and the man was caught. It turned out that he was a former employee of the nursing home, and was obviously mentally disturbed. However, the horrors of that night have haunted me forever, and I wonder if reality can sometimes be as scary as the worst nightmares. If you enjoyed today's stories, leave a comment below. It'll help me a ton. Thank you for listening, and have a creepy night.